Allô?
Então, vamos dar início ao seminário de hoje, porque senão parte dos óculos. Antes de mais, agradecer a presença a todos, aos presentes virtualmente. Remercier Laurence Doyon de se joindre à nous pour ce séminaire, pour cette visite. Agradecer à Laurence pela sua presença cá hoje. Eu não vou fazer nenhuma introdução muito específica aqui da colega, era especialista na gestão de efluentes, mais especificamente na parte das emissões gasosas, vai-nos fazer aqui o caso específico das emissões no caso da Bretanha, em França, e passo então a palavra à Laurence, já melhor para nos discutir. Se acharem bem, vamos ter uma sessão interativa, portanto, exposição, com perguntas, interrompem, sempre tem alguma coisa. A quick one, just for the English speakers. We will have a discussion, not a presentation, so if you have some questions, do not hesitate to interrupt. Okay? O mesmo aí para casa, quem tiver dúvidas, interrompa.
Obrigado. First, I'd like to thank David to give me this opportunity to give this presentation. This is the first time I give this presentation. This presentation is a result of 5 years of ideas on reflection about nitrogen flows. So it's a pleasure for me to do this one. So like has said David, I prefer interactive presentation. So if you have a question, feel free. So I don't know how this worked. So sorry for this long title. So the aim of my presentation is to think about the flow chart of manure management. It's 1K of the gaseous emission in the world, and especially in Brittany. And unfortunately, the flow chart of manure is very poor now, and it's a pity because with a well-known references flow chart, we can find solution adapted to the local or regional territory. So this is the key points of my presentation. So first, I will give you some data of agriculture in Brittany to understand the point of my presentations. After that, I'll give you some information of the use of flow charts of manure management in France and in Brittany. And at the end, I will give you some example of a well-referenced flow chart can help administration to target the main reduction technique to put in a field. So, I apologize. How to say that? It's very hard for me to switch from French, Portuguese, and English. I have been working for 20 years in gaseous emission, and I try now to move to the overall flow chart of manure treatment or manure management in order also to tackle nitrate pollution in water on gaseous, on greenhouse emission. So where is Brittany? So Brittany in the northwest of France. It's a very nice region to live. The weather is great. So, so we are around 3 million of citizens in spread over around 30,000 kilometers. And the agricultural area is around 16,000 kilometers. And Brittany is circled by a coastline, which we'll see after this introduction, is a point of discussion in Brittany because we have a lot of problem of nitrogen input and output in this coastline. So the economy of Brittany is very dynamic and is based on different sectors: tourism, fishery and aquaculture, research, innovation, industry, agriculture, and agri-food. I don't go to spend time to explain all the figures. It's for example. Concerning agriculture, the main production is livestock on crop production. On concerning livestock, it's pig production, poultry production, cattle production, and for crop, it's mainly corn and wheat productions. Brittany, it's the first regions for production of cauliflower, spinach, artichoke, tomatoes, shallot, organic butter due to a high level of dairy cattle production. We have also the first production of cows, pigs production, and poultry. So concerning the farm, the problem is that these farms are largely specialized in animal productions. And the main production is dairy cattle, pig, poultry, and there is some sheep and other grazing livestock on mixed cattle, but there is a loss of connection between crops and animal production. That's why we have a big problem of nitrogen pollution in Brittany. And unfortunately, the production is not homogeneous spatialized. So if you can see here, sorry. No. The point is no. 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 No, but if you can vegetable production with high fertilization rate that cause very damage for coastline and marine waters. So, the main problem is that the agriculture production it's very it's produced in a small area, and this nitrogen pressure give a hotspot of nitrogen production in the small agriculture area. That's why Brittany is the first regions in France, but also in Europe for ammonia emissions. And this hotspot of nitrogen production caused also a nitrogen excess, which was around 55 kilogram per hectare in 2000. And now it's around 30 kilogram of nitrogen per hectare in 2018. So this high nitrogen excess caused a high level of nitrates in river and groundwater. That's why Brittany is a nitrate vulnerable zone since 1994, according to the European directive. And now we are at the 6th program of action, and the 7th program will start soon. And the administration needs more information of the manure management in order to propose new measures to reduce nitrate in rivers. Yeah, okay. Yes, yes, yes. No, that's the problem. The administration, in order not to be too for the professional organization, works with mean in Britain, not to put some production against another. They don't want to put dairy cattle production against the pig production, so they use a mean for all the Britannics, but they don't look at pig. They don't look. That's the work I did. That's there in order to I will show you some pictures, but without the numbers. But you will see that in Brittany there is some difference between territory and between animal production, and the pressure is not the same. So in 2018, the total pressure of nitrogen in the overall Brittany was around 180 kilogram of nitrogen per hectare. And the main source, as you can see, is the manure production. The mineral is the second sources, and there is more and more organic effluent from urban and industry, especially agro-food industry. So they need to put away from the industry, the sewage, and the production, or the waste of the food production. So, up to recently, there is no problem to spread organic effluent from industry, but with the reduction of the agricultural area, there is a fighting now between agricultures and industry. So here are the main impacts of nitrogen pressure, but I don't spend time with this slide because you are aware of that. But we have a cocktail of impact: water pollution, marine, surface, and groundwater, but also bathing water. And we have a persistent green macroalgae proliferation in Brittany. And some beaches are closed due to this macroalgae. We have a problem of air quality with peak pollution during manure spreading. And sometimes the administration has to stop spreading, manure spreading, in order not to put too much ammonia in the air. And we have also a chronic pollution with a number of these each year. We have also climate change, but for somebody, climate change is an opportunity to Brittany because with more tourism. And there is another impact, but very few discussed in Brittany, is about biodiversity, the impact of nitrogen in biodiversity, because there is a very few study about the deposition of nitrogen on the biodiversity. But the nitrogen pressure is very sensitive subject in Brittany, with a political fighting, but also a journalistic fighting, because here we can see showing the story of the greenhouse problems in Brittany with the politicals and the industry relations. So it was very important for last year, these cartoons. There is also some environmental organization making some advertise about good holidays in Brittany with some algae in the beaches. So in this problem of nitrogen pressure is struggling for around 30 years. Firstly, to respect the European directive, nitrate and water framework directive. And also because due to the high level of nitrate in river, there is some sampling station for human consumption water closed by the European litigation. So it was very hard for Brittany. And as I already says, we have a problem of green algae on the Brittany coast. And there is a lot of measures put in force since 2000, but depending on the side of you are, for the states, this measure is necessary. It's an obligation. For the environmental organization, that is insufficient. And for agricultural profession, it's too restrictive because it's very hard to put on field restriction measures. So we will go to the next key points about the use of flowchart of manure management, how we use flowchart of manure management in France or in Brittany. For the lot of public policies, regulatory or incentive to reduce the nitrogen excess in Brittany. And the use of flowchart of manure management is usually used for assessing this public policy, but we will see that there is very few assessments. So here is a picture of the policy in France. I will not take in detail all this, but there is a lot of policies, and it's very hard to follow all these policies because each ministry will give the own policy, and there is a European directive, and there is a regional level. So there is some kind of picture nobody could understand. So yes, and the main problem is that all these policies are not integrated and fully assessed. So this is the kind of picture you can find in the journal with the journalist, because if each ministry is working. We can see the field. Nobody understands what we need to do. So it's a pity because the environment in Brittany is very bad now. So we have to change this kind of of management. So, which flowchart are used to assess the public policies? We have two kinds of methodology. We have the nitrogen budget to estimate the N surplus or the nitrogen excess. And we use also manure flow chart for inventory of ammonia emissions, which are mandatory. So for nitrogen budget, we use the manure flow chart for in the concept of precious state distance for defining appropriate action program for the prevention and the reduction of emission level. There is two methodologies, national methodology, locally, and cassis nitrogen. This is at the national level. And at the Britannic level, we have a nitrogen flow declaration in the framework of the nitrate directive. For the ammonia emission, we have only two methodologies. I think it's the same in Portugal, with the EMEP-UNES guidelines for ammonia and the IPCC guidelines for greenhouse gases. So for the nitrogen budget, to estimate nitrogen surplus, I read a paper for Portugal is the same. So the nitrogen excess or surplus is calculated at the sum of nitrogen balance on agricultural areas on atmospheric deposition based on agricultural statistic data. So it's the same for you. But there is difference between no-pollute and cassis nitrogens, and not the list, because these two methodologies don't use the same geographic scale, not the same input data, and not the same integration method. So when you are in discussion with agriculture profession, it's very hard to explain why the state use different methodologies, different data. So it's very hard discussion, because even if the difference is low, the difference is sufficient for the agricultural profession to stop the negotiation of the discussion. More with this kind of methodology, we have a high uncertainty because we don't use the right data. And here you can see that the incertitude depends on the incertitude is mainly due to the difference between crop production and animal production and the knowledge about the knowledge on manure flow chart. And this methodology of nitrogen budget don't take into account export to neighboring regions on manure treatment. Because the data are not available and are not public, if you don't know the administration, it's very hard to have the data. And if we come back to the slide about the nitrogen pressure in Brittany, I show you that with the nitrogen flow declaration in Brittany, we can make the production of manure, and we can also calculate the resorption of nitrogen, is it the nitrogen exported out of Brittany and the nitrogen eliminated by treatment? That will make the difference, you will see better. And nitrogen flow definition can use control to calculate the difference. So if we consider this flow chart, sorry, if we consider the next flow chart with the DFA, the nitrogen flow decoration, in Brittany in 2010, the nitrogen budget was estimated at around 20 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare of agricultural area. And if you use the no pollute, this same nitrogen budget, it's around 60 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare. So it's a huge difference. And if we consider a department in Brittany, Ille-et-Vilaine, in 2015, the nitrogen budget was estimated at around 25 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare with the DFA manure flow chart. And with the other methodology, cassis nitrogen, this value is around 60. And this, I previously mentioned, is that no pollute and cassis don't take into account manure treatment, nitrogen exportation of Brittany. So because these figures are not available for the Institute developing no pollute and cassis methodology. So when you see this figure, there is a problem, because if you go to the European Commission with the no pollute and cassis value, it's not the same that the DFA value. So this is a point of discussion, because European Commission asked Brittany to put more measures to reduce nitrate pollution, but they are thinking with false value. So the Brittany don't have the opportunity to discuss with the European Commission to explain why the situation is not what they think. So the second option for using manual flow chart, it's for inventory of ammonia emission, which are mandatory for France, not for Brittany. But there are two levels of inventory: the national, which is done by the organisme CITEPA, and the regional, just for political reasons, which is done by association Airbrace. So both inventory are done by the UNES method with a tier 2. No. The tier 2, it's a method using data on manure management. But the difference on these two methodology, it's in input data and in manure management. So if we consider the ammonia emission in Brittany in 2018, you see a difference between the two methodologies, not so long. So it's very hard again to explain to the profession why there are two figures of ammonia emissions. So it's very hard. Okay. So after that, the lower, because we have no mitigation measure to put in field. So, but it's I will give you some information after that. Yes. For example, for the reduction of ammonia, the national state have to follow the European directive called NEC, and France have to reduce in 2030 around 13% of ammonia emissions. But for all the country. This European directive is declined in national objective with the same level of ammonia reductions. And this national objective is declined in regional objective. So we need to reduce around 13% of ammonia emissions. So it's not the same if we consider the previous figure, if we consider I don't remember. The mitigation measure will not the same if you consider the CITEPA inventory or the Brittany inventory. Because we discussed that this morning with David. We know the mitigation measure. Sorry. We know the mitigation measure to reduce ammonia emissions. So there are a lot of documentation about that. And the measure to reduce ammonia emission concern housing, storage, treatment, and screening. So if you don't know where the nitrogen is produced, it's very hard to propose adapted mitigation measure, especially for cattle manure. We are very keeping differently from pigs and poultry. So if we come back to the different inventory of ammonia, the national and the regional. So the national inventory give for Brittany a level of around 43 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare of agricultural area, and the regional inventory give a level of around 52 kilograms of ammonia per hectare of agricultural area. It's not a big difference. The big difference is on the distribution of this ammonia along the chain of the manure management and among the animal production. If you consider this picture, you can see that ammonia emission in 2018 for crops with a regional inventory is 51% of the total emission in Brittany, while the national give a value of 38%. So if you want to choose the mitigation measure, you have to be sure of the distribution of the level of the ammonia emission, because if you put all the mitigation measure of crop production, if the result will not the same if you consider the national or the regional inventory. If I am not clear, feel free to ask. Yeah. No, it's the here. It's sorry. So for poultry, there is a difference. So also, but depending on the side of your situation, for us scientifics, the difference between the two inventory, it's not so higher because due to the incertitude of calculation of the input data. But for environmental organization, that make a difference because they will say that, but if you target cattle, it's not the same result. If you target crops production, the result will not the same. Yeah. Yes, because for the regional inventory, they don't use manure treatment data. So it's not the same. If we consider the previous slide about the resorption of nitrogens, if you make the calculations, the difference is very due to this treatment, manure treatment. And it's for air braze, it's it's easier to have data on crop production than on poultry production because it's two different database, and the only data available for animal production, it's the number of animals and not the manure production and the manure management. We will see that. So yes, it was the question, how to choose a measure to reduce ammonia emission, level of implementation, animal sectors, or which territory. So national or regional inventory don't give a data for each territory of Brittany. So that's make difference. Again, we will see. So I make the calculation of ammonia emissions with the DFA declaration, you know, the nitrogen flow of Brittany. And when you use the territory data, you can see a difference between territories. For example, some territories are mainly pig production, so it's more easy to reduce ammonia emission from pigs because pigs are mainly kept in house. But if we consider this part with cattle production with main nitrogen production in pasture, it's very hard to reduce ammonia emission from pasture. So this kind of picture is very useful for policymaker because with this kind of picture, they can say that in this territory, we have to target cattle production, but how? In this other territory, we have to target pig production, but pig production have already done efforts to reduce nitrogen exportation by or production by beefies and feed, by manure treatment. So in this second part of the picture, then you can see that the manure production of in pasture and housing, storage, spreading depends mainly for housing on pasture, depends on the territory. For pasture, some territory produce less than 3% of the ammonia in pasture, while other territory ammonia emission it's emitted for 17% in pasture. So this kind of figure is very important. No. No. It's we consider all the movement of manure, and after that we stop. We have the nitrogen in the territory, and we calculate ammonia emission based on the emission factor of CITEPA. Yeah. It's not sufficient. No, it's not enough. And when I show this picture for ammonia emissions, mainly here, about 80 kilogram of ammonia emission, I said after, you have to consider the redeposition of ammonia around your farms. And the level is very high for some. I consider 40% of redeposition of ammonia around the farms. I didn't make the calculation, but it's possible to, because I have the quantity of manure produced in volume. It could be possible. But as I said to you previously, depending on your units you use, for nitrogen flow, we need to express in kilogram of nitrogen per hectare in order to compare with nitrate in river, because they use the unit kilogram of nitrate per hectare. So if you want to make an integration of the different policies, you have to use, of course, if you put the total emission by territory without considering the agricultural area, the light is red. Yes. No, it's the next step of the work. It's to express the percentage of farms emitting ammonia emissions in the territory. I understand, for example, in this, there are few farms. So it's better to express the percentage of farm contributing to ammonia emission and to perhaps in percentage of farm present in the territory. I don't know. I don't know the right units to use to compare territory. But this kind of figure is very important to choose the best step of manure management to focus on for mitigation measure. Okay, so it's just a reminding of the measure put in force in Brittany to reduce nitrate into river. So a lot of measures are mandatory under the nitrate directive and the water framework directive. And this measure focus on the limitation or interdiction of manure spreading with close period of spreading, the storage capacity, buffer zone and winter covers. But in Brittany, due to the high level of nitrate in the river, the regional administration proposed reinforced measures throughout the regional territory. And the last one was the pasture presence day, because they observed that some territory have a high concentration of dairy cattle in the small area, and with the management of the herd, very prejudicial for the environment. So they put this level of 900 days of pasture for dairy cattle. They also reinforce measures in certain territories called enhanced action zone, where manure treatment is obligatory if the nitrogen production is higher than 20,000 kilograms per year, and if the farmer haven't enough land for spreading this nitrogen level. So you can see the different small territory with obligation for treatment, manure treatment obligations. And the other incentive measure paid for the local administration focus on end feeding reductions. So in Brittany, they note the percentage of feeding by BFAS for poultry and pigs, it's around 100%. There is no margin enough to go ahead with this measure. The herd reductions for some local territories. We are incentive measure for improved fertilization practices, agro-environmental diagnostic, and agricultural system with very low nitrogen leakage. But in 2018, the direction of agriculture made an inquiry about the farmer. This incentive measure are not at uneven spatialized. There is some region with very high level of mitigation measure and some territory without mitigation measure, but with high level of nitrate in river. So it's very interesting to to understand the management of manure, to explain this difference between these different territories. Because if you look in detail this inquiry, you can see that the pig production in the main sectors with high level of mitigation measure put in force. So this is the study I did the last years, and it's very interesting, I think. So by 2027, 100% of the water bodies in Brittany should be in good status according to the Water Framework Directive. But if we consider the result of the measurement in nitrate in river, you can see that around 50% of the river are not in good status. So they have to improve this state, and they have to put in force new measures in order to reduce nitrate. So we did a statistical analysis. If we take the graphic on the evolution of nitrate in river since 2000, we make a statistical analysis with principal component analysis and with a hierarchical classification. And we define 3 groups of territories with different level of reduction of nitrate concentration in river. So there is a group of territories with a reduction of around 1.5 milligram of nitrate per liters and per years. On the lesser, it's a reduction of 0.4 milligram of nitrate per liters and per years. So when the French administration show that makes not sense, because the evolution, it's not the same according to the territory. So if you want to choose and to give to put in force new measurement, new mitigation measurement, measure, you have to consider this reduction. And it was the first time that the statistical analysis shows this difference between territories. But even if we know there is difference between territories, but not shown in the whole result. It's clear for you or not? Okay. So the following question, it was to explain these 3 different trends of nitrate reduction. This difference evolution, is there a significant, is due to difference between the group of difference in nitrogen pressure? Is it due to a difference of production within cattle, poultry, pigs, and other? Or is it a difference in terms of type of manure, solid manure, slurry, and dropping? So we calculate for each territory the level of pressure, the nitrogen pressure, for cattle, solid manure, for pig slurry, and poultry solid manure, and you can see difference between territory. Some territory, the nitrogen pressure is due to a high level cattle solid manure. In other territory, it's pig slurry, it's the main source of nitrogen pressure. So as for ammonia emission, the mitigation measure for nitrate will target the type of manure, because the management of solid manure, it's not the same than the pig slurry or the poultry solid manure. So we make a second statistical analysis. We define around 50 nitrogen pressure indicator, defined as cattle solid manure, pig slurry, poultry pasture in terms of kilogram of nitrogen per hectare. We also choose a value of net nitrogen excess, ammonia emission. We also use the quantity of manure stored at field. We use a univariate analysis between, sorry, there is some mistake, between each nitrogen pressure and the group of change in nitrate concentration since 2000. And this statistical analysis allows us to find additional and specialized measures according to the different territories. So if we come back to the graphic of the evolution of reduction of nitrate in river, we find that for the first group of territories with a reduction of 1.5 milligram of nitrate, if they want to accelerate this reduction of nitrate in river, they have to focus on the reduction of mineral pressure to reduce or to prohibit the field storage of cattle manure, and also to compost the cattle manure before spreading. For the second group of territories, it will be better to manage nitrogen pressure on outdoor runs for poultry productions, and we propose also to compost the poultry manure before spreading, and to reduce also to prohibit the storage of cattle manure at field. And for the last group of territories with a reduction of 0.4 milligram of nitrate per liter per year, it's more complex because this kind of territories are mainly cattle productions without mitigation measure put in force for 30 years. So they have to reduce the organic pressure for farms with a pressure higher than 160 kilogram per hectare. They have to also to reduce the mineral pressure for farms with pressure higher than 200 and around 200 kilogram of nitrogen per hectare. They have also to consider the resorption of cattle farms with a pressure higher than the level accorded by the nitrate directive. And they have also to prohibit the field storage of cattle manure and to reduce the cattle load of cattle per hectare of agriculture area. So this kind of this was possible with a calculation, a lot of calculation of nitrogen pressure indicators. So it's a choice. For the one who work with manure management, we know that when you put solid manure on the field, the nitrogen mineralization on field is not the same that when you put pig slurry on the field. So that makes sense, because if we consider the higher group, this kind of territory is mainly done by mainly driven by pig productions. because the commanditaire, no, the finance, the administration don't want hear about nitrate ammonia emission points. So nitrate. After we will discuss about ammonia emission and also on greenhouse gases emissions, because if you reduce mineral pressure, you can reduce nitrous oxide emissions. So yes, it's the first step of I hope on a new study for considering this measure for the other part of the environment. So for the conclusion, I don't know if I'm convinced you, but in Brittany, we are a hotspot of nitrogen production. We are the first region of ammonia emission. We have a lot of nitrogen excess, and we are struggling for 30 years with a high level of nitrate in river and groundwaters. We put in force a lot of public policies to reduce this excess in Brittany with success, but not enough. But these policies are not integrated and poorly assessed, and there is a need of knowledge of the dinero, no, the money are used in France now. And when these policies are assessed, this is done with different input data according to the level, national and regional, with difference in the results. And if we use specific and spatialized data, including manure management, we can help the administration to better characterize the nitrogen pressure and to target the specific measure according to the territory and according to the animal productions. So the last slide, it's a kind of somebody put this picture in on my desk, and it's the agricultural sector don't want to move ahead for reducing nitrate or ammonia emissions. So if the algae production in Brittany is so high, it's due the ecologist. So and in my desk I had, and due to the scientific too. So this is a kind of fighting we have to manage also. Bon. No, don't applaud. My English is very bad. If you want to ask in Portuguese, some. No, I agree with your question. It's why I did this presentation, because nobody compares the value in France, because one slide show that we are working alone. People working on ammonia don't talk with people working with nitrate, Nitrite, it's a long story. So they have their own methodology. And then when you come to discuss with us on saying that we need to change your methodology, it's not easy. And because nitrate in river, it's not the same way that nitrate but into the air. But the source of the nitrogen is the same. So we have to come back to the sources and then to use the same methodology. The nitrogen going to river are not going to the air, so it's a balance. And 2 weeks ago, I was wondering about the methodology used by the European Commission for the France, and I find the Eurostat data, and there is an asterisk saying that this data come from the French ministry. So I ask the French ministry. They say, I don't know. So it's like a police, non? Une enquête policière? It's like a policy investigation. So because it's make a huge difference because and the professional sectors take this advantage of the difference value to be like that. But I agree with you. That's why I'm working on that, but it's very hard because when you are alone, it's very hard to convince a lot of people to move on. So. I take the hypothesis that 40% of ammonia emitting at farm redepose around 1 kilometer of the farm. So if we consider that not the pasture, but the crops production are near the farms, yes, and somebody say it's more. I was afraid using 40%, and somebody no, with cattle dairy it's higher. So, but some people are measuring this redeposition. So. In my opinion, it's that the manual management, I don't know if it's a real, it's the fifth wheels of the carrosse. Nobody wants to care about manure of shit for it's very it's not grateful to work with manure management for agriculture. You know, it's like as I said to you previously, when we came back from work, we don't want to manage our our dishes or our shit. So we, for example, in France, the toilets, it's managed by somebody else. It's not our own work when you come back to home. So it's the same for agriculture, and they don't have the even in France, they don't have an idea of the money of the manure. Nitrogen is very expensive now, but it's very yes. They know, but they don't want to put the hand in the manure when it's the last things they have to. C'est la dernière chose à laquelle ils pensent le soir. You know? Mm. 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 Yes. For example, for nitrate in river, the farmer are fighting against the close period, you know, because they say my pit is full. I need to fill out. No, yes. And I said, but why did you do? Why don't you have two pits with the same herd? Two pits. It's less expensive for us to pay a second pit, but it's like something disgusting to speak about manure. It's no, it's not bankable. It's not the name. It's not. This is unfair. You know. I'm not sure because in Brittany, the crop production is linked with the animal productions. So, for example, pig production is linking with maize production. So, because they can spread pig slurry on maize better than on cereal. So it's not, they don't use many fertilizer, mineral fertilizer on maize. So, yes. So thank you for attending.